And welcome to the Number Mysteries. If you haven't already guessed it, tonight's lecture is all about shapes. And perhaps nature's most perfect shape is the one I arrived in the lecture to, and the one you've been filling the lecture theatre with, the sphere. But why does the bubble like the sphere so much? And what other shapes does nature like? Well, in this programme, we're going to explore the rich and varied world of shapes, from the small objects like a virus to the big shape of the universe. And just as in last night's lecture, I'm going to tell you about a mathematical puzzle for which you can win $1 million if you can solve it. Now, perhaps all those bubbles we were blowing are spherical because you were blowing them through circles, and that's why they're actually spheres. Perhaps if you blew it through something different, like a square or a triangle, perhaps you get a pyramid-shaped bubble or something. So I've got some people on the front here who've got some funny shapes to blow their bubbles through, and we're going to see whether actually we can get some interesting shaped bubbles if we blow it through a square. So who's got a square there? Do you want to keep blowing? Let's see what you've got. Okay, yeah, you've got a square here. So if you'd like to blow your bubble, and you can blow yours too, and see if we'll get any... Oh, that's not a cube. That looks like a sphere again. What have you got? You've got a triangle. Let's blow yours. Still spheres again, not a pyramid. So what is it? Oh, you've got a star, which has got a beautiful thing here, but again, look, a lovely sphere. So why is it that the bubble, although you're blowing it through something like a square, doesn't come out as a cube? Well, it sort of starts to come out as a cube, then it collapses to the sphere. Well, that's because nature is very lazy, and the sphere, is actually the laziest shape. So the sphere is trying to find, a bit like when you roll a ball down a hill and it gets to the valley, the valley is the lowest energy point for the ball. Well, this is actually the lowest energy point for the bubble. And this shape is the shape with the smallest surface area. So it might start as a cube, but it collapses to a shape which is spherical in shape because that's a really lazy shape for the bubble. So actually nature has known this ever since the Big Bang, that the bubble is the laziest shape and the one with the smallest surface area. But it took mathematicians till 1884 before they could prove there isn't another shape which has even smaller surface area than this. Okay, that's great. You can stop your bubbles there. Terrific bubbles there. Now, it's nature's lazy shape, but there's also another reason why nature loves the sphere. Because the sphere is incredibly strong. And so that's why we put divers inside a helmet which is spherical in shape. Oh, who have we got in here? Hello?
Oh, it's Tim.
It's Tim. Tim, our assistant Tim, is here, dressed up, and he's in a spherical-shaped helmet because the pressure of the water underneath, so the water sort of squeezes him as he goes down, and the pressure is so much that you need a sphere-shaped helmet in order to be able to protect his head, and not something like a cube, because that would collapse. Okay, we're going to test this off and send Tim off to the middle of the Atlantic. You can dive down, and we'll bring him back next Christmas and see how he's get on. So off you go, Tim. But there's also another object which uses a sphere for strength, which is an egg. So nature likes to make its egg spherical because the egg is really strong and it protects the embryo inside. So this is actually so strong that mathematics says that the curvature of this egg should actually, if I take 12 of them, should support a member of the audience if they step on them. So I want a volunteer to try and test out my theory to see whether it's actually going to support them. Okay, okay, I'll have you up here. Okay, great. Okay, now we're going to let's get these eggs ready. So you're going to stand here. Right, with your skull and crossbones on there. Okay, well, what's your name, sir?
Hugh.
Hugh. Okay, Hugh, the mathematics says that if you step delicately on here, 12 eggs should support your weight. Now, wait a moment. We're going to get 2 volunteers to lift you gingerly on, and I'm going to go down here and see whether anything's going to break. So the mathematics said it should support him. Are you ready? Anyone hear any cracks? Let him go. Excellent. I can't hear any cracks. Okay, lift him off quickly and let's see how we've done. Has the mathematics proved right? Okay. Wow, that's amazing. Look, it's supported your weight. If we see this, there is nothing broken inside here. 12 eggs can support the weight of one boy. Now, you might think I probably cheated, don't you? And you think these are hard-boiled. Should we test it out and see whether they're actually hard-boiled? No, I'm not going to do that. Okay, you've got a bowl here for me. Just to show you that it's actually the strength of the sphere which is actually held as weight. There you go. They were real eggs after all. So let's thank our volunteer for testing out the strength of the sphere. Thank you. No, I'm all right. Actually, nature is full of spheres. She's very good at making spheres. Now, you might think that a raindrop is actually kind of tear-shaped, but that's actually just because animators like to draw them as a tear to give them a sense of motion as they're going down. If you take a picture of a raindrop as it drops, it's actually a perfect sphere. Now, there's another thing which is a perfect sphere. It's the one you've all been coughing and spluttering during the lecture, and it's actually a virus. And here's a model of a virus, much bigger than the one you've been coughing and spluttering. Maybe I shouldn't touch it, else I'm going to get some dreadful disease. I'm not sure which one this is. So nature is incredibly good at making spheres. But humans, we find it much more difficult. Now, I play football on the Hackney Marshes every Sunday, and we like to play with something which is spherical as possible. In fact, many sports need a really spherical ball to play with. So how do manufacturers make something which is nice and spherical? Well, they like to start with something which is flat, because they can cut out bits of leather and sort of stitch them together. So we want to make something with a lot of symmetry. So let's start off with some shapes, try and piece together some shapes with a lot of symmetry. Okay, it was an ancient Greek mathematician called Plato who first started to investigate what sort of shapes you can make for footballs. Okay, and we've got some of them here. Okay, let's start with a symmetrical shape like an equilateral triangle. So I can take an equilateral triangle, very symmetrical shape, and actually Plato realized you could put 4 of these together to make something called a tetrahedron. So this is quite a symmetrical shape, but not very spherical. I'm not sure this one's going to make terribly good football, do you? Let's test it out, okay? Now, I'm actually a central defender for my football team, so they don't let me take free kicks. So I'm going to try and score a goal right at the back there. But I warn you, the people in the front, it's also not a very good sphere. So I'm going to blame it on the ball. A good workman blames his tools. So let's see where this one's going to go. Okay, see if I can score a goal with this Plato football. Oh! Well, not a goal, but I took one of their defenders out, so I think your wall worked very well. Okay, well, I'm going to blame that on the fact that it wasn't a terribly good spherical shape. And we got some better ones. Actually, Plato realized that if you took equilateral triangles, again, actually, you could take 8 of them and piece them together to make what we call an octahedron. So that's getting a little bit more spherical shaped. But here's another one, a very symmetrical shape, the cube. And of course, we can stick 6 of these together, and that makes something looking a little bit like a dice. And so the dice is very symmetrical, and that's why it's a very fair thing to play at games. But it's still not very spherical. Well, this one's quite good, actually, because this one's made out of pentagons, and a pentagon is starting to look a little bit more like a circle. So that's a very sort of circular shape. Maybe it makes a good sphere. That's not bad. Actually, Plato realized you could put 12 of these together to make, actually, they used to call it the sphere of 12 pentagons. They also called it a dodecahedron. So let's try that one out. That might be a bit better. Okay, who can I take out now? Okay, so this is a bit more spherical, so I think I might be able to score a goal this time. Okay, are you ready? Oh! Hey, that's not bad. Yeah, that's not bad. Top left-hand corner. Okay. Now, Plato discovered there are only 5 different shapes you can make, and the last one is this one here. We're starting again with the equilateral triangle, but you can put 20 of those together. We've seen one with 4, one with 8, but this one is actually with 20 triangles together. And this is called an icosahedron. But Plato proved that there are 5 and only 5 shapes you can make by putting these together. I can't take any other combination of triangles and make a different shape. So this is getting pretty spherical. But there is something I could do to make it a little bit more like a ball. I could cut off some of the corners here. Okay, let's try and cut off the corners and see if we can make a really good football. Let's put that one back here. So I've got a shape over here, which our icosahedron started off as that. And you see all the triangles on here. Now what I'm going to do is cut off all the corners and try and smooth it out and make it a bit more like a sphere. Okay, let's take these off. Okay. Now, when I take off the corners, you see what happens. The triangle has actually become a hexagon. As I take off these, the corners, interestingly, become pentagons. So here's another one. Take that one off. If I take all of them off, there are 12 corners there. Take them all off, actually I get something which looks very familiar. That looks like the football I actually kick around on the Hackney Marshes every Sunday. Now, this one's quite interesting. It's made up of two different shapes. We've got the hexagon here, but we've also got some pentagons. Now, I've got actually an unwrapped football for you to see. So this is what it starts off as, something very flat, all these flat pieces, and they sew them together. So I've got, we remember you had 20 triangles. I cut them up, so I've got 20 hexagons here. You can see the bladder underneath there. And we've got 12 pentagons, and if you sew those up, you get the classic football that we kick around on a Sunday. Now, this shape is made out of a combination of symmetrical objects, so I wonder what other footballs we could make. Well, it wasn't Plato, but another Greek mathematician called Archimedes who explored the different sorts of shapes you can make if you take symmetrical shapes, but lots of different ones. So here they are. Archimedes proved that there are only 13 different footballs, in addition to Plato's, which you can make. So there are quite interesting shapes here. For example, let's see, some interesting... Yeah, this one I quite like, because if you see here, this one's got squares, it's got hexagons, and it's also got octagons inside here. So that's combining three different shapes. Now, all the shapes actually have the same edge length, but you can still piece them together. And there are only 13 different possible. No more other than these 13. So, and I think we've got the football here. There's the football. Now, maybe next World Cup, we're going to see one of these different footballs appearing. Maybe we're going to get this one. This is a snub dodecahedron with 92 different faces. So maybe World Cup ball of 2010 is going to be something like this. Okay, I've told you a